These were the Cleveland Browns as the 1968 season began. Their names were familiar ones: Frank Ryan, Ernie Green, Gary Collins, Bill Glass, and Lou Groza. They were stars, but incredibly, by the time the season would end, each of these men would no longer play regularly for the Browns. After barely beating the Saints in the opener, Cleveland faced the Cowboys and Rams without Ernie Green, who had been injured. A decline in offense was expected, but no one was prepared for the disaster that followed. First, in the Cotton Bowl, then in Cleveland, where 83,000, with the exception of Coach Collier, sat in silence as the Browns' attack simply disintegrated. The inept offense got the ball across midfield only once, and no rescue from the power failure seemed in sight for the demoralized Browns. Then Blanton Collier made the most dramatic decision of his career. He replaced Frank Ryan, a championship quarterback, with newcomer Bill Nelson, an oft-injured but highly respected passer from Pittsburgh. If teams with experienced quarterbacks win games, those with two-season quarterbacks win titles. Nelson's first big test came against the most powerful team in football, the Baltimore Colts. The Colts had John Unitas, Earl Morrall, and the best defense in the game. On this afternoon of October 20th, the Browns faced more than a fine opponent. Critics had labeled them a team that never won the big games. But from the first play of the game, a confident Bill Nelson and an aroused Cleveland team regained its pride and instantly turned an entire season around with a resounding upset of the Colts. Nelson followed the game plan to perfection. It was nothing fancy. Nelson understood what he could do against the expert Baltimore defense. He took what he could and discarded the rest. This meant Leroy Kelly's running and the short passing game. The offense had returned to normalcy, and perhaps the biggest reason was Ernie Green. The fullback was making his first start, and his contribution was immeasurable. Green gave the Baltimore defense someone besides Kelly to worry about, and this left number 44 wide open for Cleveland's first score. This was also the day the youthful defense put it all together. They stopped the Colts' number one threat, massive John Mackey, and when Morrall tried to hit his deep men, he found them well covered. It was in this game that the Browns' defense established a trend that would continue all season long. They got the ball for their offensive counterparts. Nelson continued the emphasis on the short pass and took advantage of the breaks to hit Paul Warfield with a sideline shot to give Cleveland a 14-7 halftime lead. Don Shula substituted quarterbacks in an effort to spark the Colts, but on this day, it mattered little who was across the line from a devastating Browns defense. The onslaught continued despite Unitas' presence. Nelson, known for leadership abilities, proved he could fulfill the other criteria for a quarterback. He could score. He hit Eppie Barney, Gary Collins' replacement, on a gutsy fourth down call. The Browns, a team that simply got tired of being beaten, were obviously going to win. The rest of their strategy was basic. Give the ball to Kelly. The incomparable halfback carried 30 times for 130 yards as the Browns completed one of the finest triumphs in their history. On a single autumn afternoon, a whole team grew up. An entire season changed. After this victory, the first of 8 straight wins, people were talking about the Browns in the way they haven't for a long, long time. The next week, the young defense battered Atlanta's quarterbacks 8 times. Once again, they gave the offense the ball. And once again, Bill Nelson showed he could move the team and put points on the board. He hit for over 75% of his passes, and Kelly again went over 100 yards. Against the rugged 49ers, rookie Don Cockcroft kicked 4 field goals, 1 from 46 yards. And Leroy Kelly had his greatest day as a pro as he propelled his way for 174 yards. The defense continued its hard-hitting display of alertness by recovering 3 fumbles and intercepting 2 passes. And Bill Nelson threw 2 touchdown passes to Milt Morin as Cleveland showed it could win by coming from behind. The next week against New Orleans, Green's replacement, Charlie Haraway, ran through the Saints for over 80 yards. He had help in the offensive show as an indestructible force named Kelly contributed 127 yards and 3 touchdowns. The 4th straight victory gave the Browns undisputed possession of first place in their division. November 17th, a gray, cloudy day in Pittsburgh was billed as a duel between 2 traded quarterbacks, Nelson and Dick Shiner. But the Browns' defense quickly took care of the Shiner half of the duel. Each of the 4 backs, Barnes, Kellerman, Davis, and Howell, stole a pass, as the Browns plucked 6 interceptions and 1 fumble out of the hands of the Steelers. Bill Nelson filled the gloomy skies at the Steel City with pinpoint passing, hitting a variety of receivers 18 times for 3 touchdowns. The square-faced quarterback celebrated his homecoming with a rest on the sidelines, while Frank Ryan joined the parade and unleashed touchdown bombs to both Charlie Haraway and Paul Warfield on a spectacular leaping catch. The devastation Cleveland's 7th victory ended 45-24. The following week against the Eagles, Leroy Kelly became only the 3rd man in history, along with former teammate Jim Brown and Packer Jim Taylor, to top 1,000 yards rushing 3 times. He scored 2 more touchdowns, again went over the century mark in running, and to cap it off on a play that began like the Browns' famous sweep, he arched a perfect pass to Warfield for a touchdown. The Browns added to Joe's woes 47-13. Next, Cleveland sloshed to its 7th straight win in a driving rainstorm against the New York Giants. The field conditions affected Tarkenton, who couldn't scramble, and it bothered his receivers and his runners, who couldn't hang on to the ball. It even got to the Browns on occasion. But it had little effect on fleet Paul Warfield, who hauled in 6 passes and skipped through Giant defenders all day. The field certainly didn't affect the great Kelly, who scored 4 touchdowns in a brutal display of power running. Kelly captured the league's scoring lead in the 45-10 burial of New York. The Browns' timetable for victory was accurate, but taken in stride as they narrowly defeated Washington for their 8th victory in a row and their 4th title in 5 seasons under Collier. The almost subdued acceptance of the Century title was due to the belief shared by the whole team that only a victory over Dallas in the playoffs would satisfy their ambitions. For a young team that was supposed to go nowhere, the prevailing mood was, we haven't done anything yet. The collective tension of 82,000 people could be felt as the Browns nervously waited to play the Cowboys, winners of the last 4 games between the clubs. But from the first play, the dramatically improved Browns defense showed it was primed for an all-out effort. The explosive offense was further bolstered by the return of rugged Gary Collins. Then disaster struck. Chuck Howley duplicated a play suffering Cleveland fans saw earlier this season. It looked like the Dallas jinx would hold. But that this is a different Browns team than the one that lost to Dallas earlier was amply demonstrated. The touchdown pass to Kelly was important because it came before the half. And when the third quarter opened, it clearly was the Browns that had the momentum. The sweep is designed to spring Kelly, and it worked to perfection as the league's leading runner and scorer ran and scored. In the space of 2 minutes, the Browns had broken it open with a 2-touchdown lead. Craig Morton replaced Don Meredith at quarterback, but it made no difference to the Browns who was quarterbacking.
Got to win it for us. We win. Don't lose your boys. Don't lose your boy. We'll win. I'm Landry's sick. Landry. I can't feel sorry for him. I swear I cannot. Run that clock out, Big O!
A subpar Ernie Green scored the clincher. As thousands swarmed onto the field toward the bench, the gun sounded. The Browns were now champions of the Eastern Conference. At 5:20 p.m. on December 29th, the season ended for the Cleveland Browns. A twisted goalpost symbolized their defeat. In 1964, Gary Collins scored 3 touchdowns in Cleveland's shutout victory over the same Colts. Now it was 1964 all over again, but in reverse. Although the season ended with a thud, the one game could not erase the fine season that went before it. The Browns were a young team that should be even better. A young defense, which had new men at 6 positions, led the league in interceptions. They were alert, aggressive, and opportunistic. But there is no better witness for the defense than the offense.
Well, you saw how great our defense kept getting us the ball. Whenever you can have a defense hand it over to you that much without letting the other team score, you've got to break loose sooner or later.
As I say, if the defense gives us the ball that many times, we're going to score some points.
A source of great pride in Cleveland, the offensive line, consisted of Fred Hoagland at center, All-Pro guard Gene Hickerson, first-year starter John DeMare, and 10-year veterans like Dick Shafrath and Monty Clark at tackles. This group led the league in protecting the passer. Tommy McDonald lent spirit and experience as a replacement for Collins and Eppie Barney. 26-year-old Milt Morin is the biggest, most effective tight end in Browns history. Once he's loose in the secondary, he has the awesome force of an irate hippopotamus. At split end, the smoothie from Ohio State, Paul Warfield, had his finest year since his rookie season. Warfield's precision and fawn-like grace make him a pleasure to watch, but a disaster to catch. For co-captain Ernie Green, the season might have been a last hurrah. The 7-year veteran's injury gave Charlie Haraway a chance, though, and he made the most of it. The 230-pound fullback runs with speed, but evasive action is not his style. When you talk about offense in Cleveland, you're talking about Leroy Kelly. The league's leading runner and scorer has the fastest start in football. He's a dangerous receiver, too. But the greatest testament to Kelly is simply to watch him run. An era ended when number 76, Lou Groza, retired after 21 honor-filled seasons. His successor, young Don Cockcroft, one half his age, had the best field goal percentage in the league. These are the 1968 Browns, and this was their year for youth. They had the qualities that meant the difference between success and failure: tradition, talent, loyalty, determination, unity, and unselfish teamwork. They are young, and they are winners. Everything is ahead of them.
Have confidence in this football team. Our football team is a young ball club.
All of us are young. The oldest guy we got is 26, and I'm 24. So we got a long time to get together.
Well, actually, we have a, real young team. I think we have the second youngest team in football right now.
Next season, we're looking forward to. We had an awful young ball club, and I feel it will improve.
I think we have the making of a great ball club because we learned, not too long ago that we have perhaps the second youngest team in the National Football League.
This could be and shall be one of the great Browns teams of many, many years, if not of all time. We are all very grateful for the season. Next to the Atlanta Falcons, we're the youngest team in pro football, and our future is ahead of us, not behind us.